Thank you for having me. I'm kind of scared. I feel like Larry the Cable Guy is going to come right out here behind me and start saying, "Peter Den." I won't be able to. So I thought a lot about what I would say tonight, and they're going to flash a light at me, which I can't really see because I'm blinded by the lights in front of my eyes. And I think this crowd is bigger than the crowd that was at my wedding. So this comes from a story from my book, The Ordinary Spaceman, and the title of that chapter is called The Serendipity of Chance, but I'm kind of like the abbreviated version of my story of serendipity. The day was June the 8th, 2007. I was scheduled to launch for the first time in my life into outer space aboard the space shuttle Atlantis. So we were scheduled to launch in the afternoon on June the 8th, which would have been my father's 77th birthday. So we launched as a member of the crew of STS-117. It just so happens that my parking space at NASA at the Johnson Space Center, after I was selected as an astronaut, was 117. It also turned out that I was picked in 1998 of the class of astronauts, the 17th class of astronauts ever chosen. When I would fly with the STS-117 crew and they would take me to the International Space Station, I was simply a sack of potatoes. I was being delivered to the ISS because I was now to become a member of Expedition 15. Expedition 15, if you count the number of letters in the name Clayton Anderson, you will get the number of 15. So we launched into space. We had a really good 10-day mission. I was destined to stay, and the crew from STS-117 came home. As I got into Atlantis and they looked for their opportunity to land at the Kennedy Space Center, there were none because the weather was so bad. Kind of like it's going to be here tonight. So they had to go to Edwards Air Force Base in California, which is kind of the backup landing site for any shuttle mission. So they landed at Edwards, everybody was safe and everything was cool, but now we had to get the Space Shuttle Atlantis all the way back to Florida, which is $1 million cost and really requires 2 legs of flight. The first flight somewhere in the Midwest and the second flight back to Kennedy. Well, on this simple trip, they always check the weather, they check the traffic patterns, they make sure that they're going to fly the shuttle Atlantis on top of the big 747, the shuttle carrier aircraft. They want to make sure that it goes to a place where there isn't much traffic. Well, this time, some 10 or 11 days after they dropped Nebraska's first and only astronaut to the International Space Station, the shuttle carrier aircraft carried Atlanta and they flew halfway home to Florida. And it just so happened that day, the place they decided to stop and refuel was a place called Offutt Air Base in Omaha, Nebraska. And when they land the shuttle to stop at Offutt to get their gas, they always do 2 or 3 big low passes, wide passes, 20 miles wide around the airfield, so that anyone that knew that Nebraska's astronaut had made it to space could come outside and see the Space Shuttle Atlantis fly around the area that was some 20 miles from where this young kid was born and raised. So fast forward to October of 2007. The Space Shuttle Discovery was getting ready to launch to bring me home. And on that launch day, we watched on a computer inside the International Space Station to see exactly what was going on because I didn't want to get my hopes up until that sucker was off the pad. Well, when they came and they docked to the International Space Station, we had a very, very busy mission with the STS-120 crew. We had problems with solar arrays, we had problems with computers, we had all sorts of things going on. They brought a brand new module that we had to work on, and by the time the mission was over and it was time to go home, the whole crew was exhausted. Commander Pam Milroy of Discovery at STS-120 called Houston and she said, "Hey, we're scheduled to land in the dark at night, and I'd rather not. Could we land in the daylight because it's a lot easier on a pilot?" Well, Houston said, "No, we really can't do that because ever since Columbia exploded over the northeast Texas skies, we've decided not to bring a trajectory down through the continental United States. We've chosen to bring them all up over the Gulf of Mexico to where there are less people, just in case." But she pleaded her case. She said, "We're really tired, we worked really hard," and the Mission Control Center team met for 2 days overnight to discuss whether or not they would grant us that opportunity, which they did. So, on landing day, here I was on the Space Shuttle Discovery's middeck as we came in over the northwest part of the United States near Seattle. As we came screaming in, we were traveling at 17,500 miles per hour, 5 miles every second, and we had to get rid of all that energy because we only needed to land at about 200 knots. And the way we do that is just like when you go to a lake and you throw the stone and you skip it across the water. The initial energy that you have in the stone hits the water, it takes a little energy away, it does its hop, it hits again, removes some more energy, it hops again, and if you're really good, after 7 or 8 hops, it's slow enough where it catches the water and goes down in. It's exactly the same with the shuttle, we just use the atmosphere instead of the water surface. And we do what we call role reversal, so the Space Shuttle Discovery swings to the left and it burns its belly against the atmosphere, just like the rock against the water. And then it turns back to the right on another role reversal, and back and forth until we've burned off enough energy so that we can enter the atmosphere and glide down to the landing site. So on that day over in Northwest United States, Pam Norway calls to the ground. She says, "Houston, Discovery on air to ground 1. And we're fixing to do our first role reversal. And it will occur, Houston, over the great state of Nebraska." Now, she didn't have to say that. I didn't ask her to say that. She said that because she knew how much the state of Nebraska meant to me. And as we burned off that energy, we came screaming in over the southeast part of Florida. We were going to do a big high-yakin turn out over the Atlantic Ocean and turn back into the runway where we were to land. And that runway's number is 3315. 15, runway 15. As we came screaming in and Pam was bringing her down, and we slowed down to 205 knots, we landed the Space Shuttle Discovery on runway 15 on November the 7th of 2007. And if you write the date, November the 7th, in digital form, what do you write? You write 117. And it just turned out that November 7th, 2007 was my wife and my 15th wedding anniversary. So if you don't believe that there's a higher power that works to put a small town kid from Nebraska into outer space and bring him back home safely, then you and I need to talk outside. And everybody always asks, "Clay, what is it like to live and work in outer space?" It's home and away. But when you're in space, the answer is easy. I was Superman every day. I flew to breakfast. Then I flew to work. If I needed a break, I flew into the bathroom. And you know what? I flew while I was going to the bathroom. I traveled faster than a speeding bullet, 17,500 miles per hour, 5 miles every single second. I was more powerful than a locomotive. I could grab anything in space with 3 fingers and hold it up above my head. And I was able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. There were no buildings 250 miles above the earth. And I believe in my heart, and as I close today with my first time telling you a story, I believe that I stood for truth, justice, and the American way. Thank you very much. God bless you.